Paleo, paleo, paleo.
Hey guys, Michael here from Fat to Fit. So you guys have been asking about us, so today I thought I would make a video on the paleo diet. Paleolithic, I can't say the full name, but paleo diet is what I'm going to be referring to. So what I'm going to start with is basically going a bit over what the paleo diet is and then going through some of the advantages and disadvantages of it, trying to keep my personal opinion out of it, but you'll probably tell what I think about it as I am going through it. So basically the paleo diet, it's a diet whereby it's based on our ancestors pretty much, back in the times where people were hunter-gatherers, where they hunted for their food with the spears or whatever, and they gathered food from just living off the land and stuff like that. It's called the Paleo era, so that's where the kind of name comes from, and it was thousands and thousands of years ago. So basically what the diet involves is you pretty much stick to fruit, veg and meat, and you cut out pretty much dairy, grains and all kinds of processed foods and stuff like that. So going back to very, very, very basic dieting, and that's kind of what the whole thing is about. So what are some of the advantages of this kind of diet? Well, I suppose the good thing about it is, sorry if I'm looking here, I've just got a few notes. A good thing about it is it does emphasize consumption of things like whole foods, lean proteins, whilst cutting out things like saturated fats and just like sugar and salt and stuff like that, which is pretty high in the amount of foods we are eating today. And there have been a few studies done on the benefits of the paleo diet, and I'll link any studies I mention will pretty much be linked, or articles will be linked in the description box below if you are interested in them. But pretty much they said the paleo diet has been able to reduce risk factors, so things that cause disease, in particular cardiovascular disease, so disease to do with the heart. So the paleo diet, if you're on it, it like drops your cholesterol levels and your blood lipid levels, so the fats in your body. It's been shown to improve your risk of preventing diabetes by controlling your glucose levels, so the amount of sugar you have in your blood, etc, etc. And these studies have been done to prove this. However, I do not agree with them at all. When you look at these studies, they're normally done in very small groups, so pretty much less than 20 people. The studies only happen over a few months, and normally these studies aren't really well designed to test the full benefits of the diet. So no real long-term studies have been done for this diet, so there's no real scientific evidence out there, and that's why I really disagree with it, because people are using these studies to support, oh, the paleo diet works, the paleo diet works, but then the studies aren't actually credible. Well, they may be credible, but they're not done in enough detail, or not enough research has been done. So I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but those were pretty much the advantages I was able to find from doing some research online. But mainly, as you probably guessed by now, I do not agree with the paleo diet, and so I have a few of the disadvantages, the reasons why I don't agree with it. Not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's some people choose to follow it, it's their choice. It's just something I don't agree with, and that I base that on the evidence that I have been able to find. So my issues with the paleo diet. Number one, a lot of the paleo diet that is being recommended today, there is no way it can emulate what our ancestors ate. If you think about it, this is 30,000+ years ago. There is no way the foods are going to be the same as they were back then. Through evolution of the different foods, through crossbreeding, mutation, all of these different things have vastly changed the foods compared to what our ancestors ate. If you, even fruits, vegetables, meats, it's not the same animals as there were 30,000 years ago. Animals have evolved, like people have evolved as well. Everything's going to be vastly different, and so you can't really copy what they were eating back then, like anywhere close to what they were eating. You can mimic it, but you can't really get it exactly the same, if you know what I mean. Now, cutting out whole food groups, that's another thing I have an issue with. You shouldn't have to diet, you shouldn't have to cut out whole food groups. Like this we have 5 food groups pretty much. Fruit, veg, grains, dairy, and meat, basically, pretty much like that. So you're cutting out almost half of your food groups with dairy and grains, and it's just, you're missing out on a lot of vital nutrients and minerals in there. Like, you can get them from other foods from the other groups, but they're just not the best or most optimal sources. And with cutting out the grains, there's actually evidence to say that humans during the Paleo era were actually eating grains. Anyway, even before that, 30,000 years ago, there's evidence going back to 3 to 4 million years ago, way before the Paleo era, that people were consuming grains. And so I just don't believe that you need to cut out grains. Even under the Paleo diet, people were eating grains way back then, according to evidence that has been found. As I was saying before, there's just no solid evidence either way for or against the Paleo diet. Like, various studies have been done, but there is no solid long-term scientific studies that have been done to prove the benefits of the Paleo diet or the disadvantages, even though that's the side I'm favouring. There's just not enough research out there on the Paleo diet yet to determine whether it's actually helpful in the long run or even the short term. Because like I was saying before, the studies that have been done have been quite short, quite small sample sizes, and really not done the best that they could be, and a lot more research needs to be put into it. But from what I've been able to tell and what opinions I've formulated, it is not one of the best diets to be put on. So the main problem I have with the Paleo diet, besides the lack of evidence supporting it, is that it promotes a way of thinking whereby you say, we have a list of allowed foods that you're allowed to eat and foods that you're not allowed to eat. So it's promoting that kind of thinking. And then kind of when you're picking foods to eat or you're eating, you're like, oh, I can't have this, I can't have that, I can't have this. So it's really kind of restricting yourself and promoting a way of thinking that promotes anxiety, and it's just gonna make you not feel the best about eating food or constantly worried about what you were eating. And that kind of thinking can lead to eating disorders and other mental health problems, and it's just not a way of thinking that I would promote, and it's not a sustainable way of thinking in the long run, having to avoid foods to eat, having to eat a certain way, especially for somebody who's trying to lose weight and they're following that diet. It just can make things a lot harder and can just add to their issues, which is kind of another thing that I don't like about the Paleo diet. Anyway, so those are just kind of trying to look at both sides of the argument. Basically, I don't agree with the Paleo diet, but you shouldn't agree or disagree with it based on what I say. Go and do the research for yourself. Maybe take on board some of the things I've said, look at some of the articles, and you decide for yourself if you think the Paleo diet is something that works or something that doesn't work. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it helped answer some of those questions you guys were asking me. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below on your opinions of the Paleo diet, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll see you later, guys.